Ladies and gentlemen, by the power vested in me, I hereby constitute this assembly as a legal congregation of the University of Pretoria. During this assembly, degrees with all the associated rights and privileges will be conferred on the candidates whose names appear in the program. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, we now request you to join us in silent prayer or meditation to give thanks for the achievements of our students. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, as the Vice Principal of the University of Pretoria, I extend a warm welcome to you at this graduation, this very special graduation ceremony. I extend a particular word of welcome to the Dean of the Faculty of Law, Professor Andre Borain, the Deputy Dean of the Faculty of Law, Professor Anton Kok, the Deputy Director, Department of Enrollment and Student Administration, Dr. Abby Mateka, the Director of the Center for Human Rights, Professor Fulyun, heads of departments, directors, emeriti, and honorary professors, and other lecturers and their spouses. I also extend a warm welcome to supervisors, co-supervisors, and external examiners of doctorandi. Then, too, I extend a warm welcome to the representative of the Student Representative Council, who will present the SRC academic honorary colors. Then, too, a warm welcome to Professor Manfred Novak, EIUC Secretary General, Dr. Veronica Gomez, the chairperson of the Global Campus of Human Rights. Then, of course, importantly, we extend a very warm welcome to all persons to whom degrees will be conferred this afternoon. And finally, we extend a warm welcome, a special welcome to all spouses, parents, and other parties, as well as dignitaries whom we may not be aware of. Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of 40 graduation ceremonies held at the University of Pretoria during 2017. During the course of these ceremonies, a total of more than 13,500 qualifications were conferred. Today, we will be conferring 65 postgraduate degrees in the Faculty of Law. Of these, an impressive 11 are doctoral degrees. Ladies and gentlemen, the University of Pretoria's long-term strategy, also known as UP 2025, endeavors to ensure that the university becomes a site of research and teaching excellence, both because our country and continent deserves it, but also because our students deserve it. The implementation of the 2025 Visions Agenda is guided by a series of 5-year strategic plans. This year, 2017, was the first year of the implementation of our second 5-year plan towards the UP 2025 vision. Of course, the development of a new 5-year plan for the university gave us the opportunity to assess our progress towards our 2025 objectives. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with pleasure and also with a degree of pride as a member of this university that I can report that based on publication outputs and research citations as well as excellence in teaching, the University of Pretoria has consistently maintained its position as a research leader. Specifically, it currently ranks amongst the top 1% of universities globally in the following 6 broad areas. Firstly, agricultural sciences. Secondly, engineering. Third, clinical medicine. Fourth, social sciences, and I want to remind you here that law falls within the social sciences category. Fifth, plant and animal sciences, and finally, ecology and environmental sciences. Very recently, too, the University of Pretoria was ranked in the top 40 universities in the Quirelli-Simmons, or the QS BRICS University Rankings. The BRICS rankings aim to identify the top achieving universities in Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. The University of Pretoria is now ranked the 38th best university in all BRICS countries and placed 3rd overall in South Africa according to the QS ranking system. Furthermore, The University of Pretoria was placed second highest for employer reputation in South Africa and 19th in the BRICS grouping of countries. Then too, it is worth noting that the percentage of academic staff with doctoral qualifications at the University of Pretoria has increased significantly over the past few years, from 43% of all staff in 2012 to 63.5% in 2016. In this regard, the University of Pretoria outperforms all other South African universities. In other words, the University of Pretoria has the highest concentration of staff members with doctoral degrees. Then too, the doctoral graduate output increased by 66.5% between 2012 and 2015, and research publications per academic staff member almost doubled over the past 5 years. These indicators, ladies and gentlemen, are important ways in which we measure our performance as a university and which we assess whether we are making the necessary progress in pursuit of our strategic goals. On the whole, therefore, the University of Pretoria has done extremely well these past few years. However, you may ask, how has our Faculty of Law performed in recent years? Well, ladies and gentlemen, according to the Times Higher Education World University Rankings, the Faculty of Law at the University of Pretoria is currently doing very well. Specifically, in a report recently published, the faculty was ranked the top law faculty in South Africa and in Africa and 92nd internationally. And we have to remember how many hundreds of thousands of universities we have in the world. This is not surprising, however, given that the faculty has 27 researchers rated by the National Research Foundation, and that is a difficult achievement. This number includes 3 A-rated and 10 B-rated researchers, making the Faculty of Law one of our better performing faculties if one looks at the total number of staff and the average A-rated scientists and B-rated scientists in the faculty. In addition, our law academics continue to render exceptional service to the global community. Here I think in particular of the work done by Professors Anne Skelton, Dire Tladi, Christoph Haynes, and others for the United Nations. It is worth noting that in the recent accreditation process undertaken by the Council for Higher Education in the field of law as well, that the University of Pretoria's Faculty of Law was one of only 3 faculties of law that had been awarded full accreditation. I'm sure you had read about this in the newspapers, and particularly the accounts of universities who were not successful. Thus, ladies and gentlemen, our Faculty of Law has done extremely well over the past few years, and it gives one pride to know that you are associated with a university that has a faculty with such exceptional talent and such exceptional productivity, and academics who really achieve remarkably well. Really stellar performance from our Faculty of Law. However, ladies and gentlemen, it is not merely at an institutional level that the university has done well in recent years. The vast majority of our students, I believe, have also done fairly well. The 13,500 students were awarded degrees and diplomas by the university during 2017 also represent, I believe, 13,500 success stories. Moreover, many of our students have done very well despite the odds, and I'm sure that there are some of them amongst yourselves this afternoon. Consider here, for example, and I'm going to mention 3 cases. The case of Richard Verster, who was involved in a serious car accident in his 2nd year at the University of Pretoria. So severe were his injuries that his doctors predicted that he would not be able to continue with his studies. Through hard work and perseverance, however, Verster not only learned to walk, talk, read and write again, but he completed his BCom degree in 2016 within the prescribed period of time. We here also think of Kenneth Mabelani, a determined young man from Soshanguve, who graduated with a bachelor's degree in music from the University of Pretoria on Wednesday, the 3rd of May, 2017. And he graduated despite enormous hardship and the fact that he is blind. Despite his blindness and socioeconomic circumstances, Kenneth had always been determined that nothing would ever prevent him from studying and pursuing his dream of becoming an established musician. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, a case that you are all familiar with, we think of Quinton Makondo, the young student who had graduated with a degree in actuarial science and financial mathematics from the University of Pretoria on Friday, the 21st of April. What is exceptional about Quinton Makondo's case is that he commenced his studies at the University of Pretoria at the very young age of 15 years and graduated at the age of 19. What I also thought exceptional about Quentin was the fact that he left his family home at the age of 15 to come and stay in the Pretoria region on his own and to fend his way through his studies and still graduated on time and did so very well. Ladies and gentlemen, the reason why I recounted some of these stories is also to indicate one of the qualities which I believe set UP students apart, and I hope that part of your socialization at the university while doing your studies had inculcated or strengthened this feature or characteristic of UP students, that despite the odds, no matter what the odds are, our students strive towards exceptional performance, and they achieve, and we've seen the 3 cases, and I'm sure amongst you there are many such cases, they achieve despite the circumstances. And that's one of the core values that we want to inculcate in our students. Where other students might say, I'm not doing well because of X, Y, and Z factors, UP students say, I do well despite all these factors. And I hope that you will carry those features and characteristics with you wherever you are going to find yourself in the workplace. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to use this opportunity to congratulate all our graduates today. Firstly, for their personal achievements, but also for their contribution to the university achievements. The university only does well if our students do well. And of course, the converse is also true. Our students do well if our staff do well and if the university generally does well. I think that all of us recognize that graduating here this afternoon is the culmination of much hard work and sacrifice for those graduating, as well as their families and other benefactors. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, my sincerest congratulations to everyone who will be receiving degrees today for having stayed the course and having reached the goal of successfully completing the programs for which you had enrolled. Of course, sincere congratulations to those who had lectured and supervised you as well. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask you to do something quite unorthodox. I want to ask all the graduates to rise and to applaud the lecturers and their families and friends who had supported them in their studies so that they could reach this milestone. And to turn towards your benefactors. Thank you very much. Thank you. And of course, I now ask our lecturers and their families and friends to applaud the graduates for their remarkable achievements. Ladies and gentlemen, as the last point, I wish to remind you that this summer graduation ceremony is always scheduled to coincide more or less with and to commemorate Human Rights Day, which is observed every year on the 10th of December. This is a day on which the United Nations General Assembly in 1948 adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I also want to remind you that this year Human Rights Day announces the beginning of a year-long campaign to mark the upcoming 70th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This is an important document that affirms the inalienable rights that all the citizens of the world are entitled to, regardless of race, religion, sex, sexual orientation, home language, social class, and so forth. I also wish to remind you of the words of Eleanor Roosevelt, the chair of the drafting committee of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, who remarked, and I quote, "Where do universal human rights begin?" she asks. "In places close to home, including in schools and universities. Unless these rights have meaning there, they have little meaning anywhere. Without concerted citizen action to uphold them close to home, we shall look in vain for progress in the larger world." Close quote. For this reason, we cannot but commend the Center for Human Rights and the Faculty of Law for the work that they have done, that they are doing in the field of human rights, not only internationally and nationally, but also at the University of Pretoria through its extensive human rights programs. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your attention. I now request the Dean to introduce to me the candidates present whose names appear in the program.
Mr. Vice Principal, the supervisors will now introduce the candidates who complied with all the requirements for the degree Doctor of Laws.
Mr. Principal, sir, I introduce to you Olainka Adenei, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Doctor of Laws with a thesis titled Legal Protection of the Girl Child Against Child Marriage, Aura Yarinya in Nigeria, prepared under my supervision. In her thesis, Legal Protection of the Girl Child Against Child Marriage, Aura Yarinya in Nigeria, the promovenda interrogated the law, including the Constitution and the applicable international law in Nigeria, and how it can be used to eradicate the scourge of child marriage, in Hausa referred to Aura Yarinya. Using extensive desk work, candidate examined the issue of adults marrying children, particularly girls. Thesis found the practice of child marriage very much alive, particularly in the north of Nigeria. Adult men see nothing wrong in marrying girls as young as 8 years of age. To address the scourge, and with United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 5, which provides for gender equality and empowerment of all women and girls, candidate proposes innovative suggestions, including use of strategies in living law against child marriage, and further suggests introduction of legal and institutional strategies aimed to prohibit and sanction child marriage. Mr. Vice Principal, sir, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate. Thank you.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Laws with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate.
You're nervous, Justin? Mr. Vice Principal, I introduce to you Chinedu Justin Effie, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Doctor of Laws with a thesis titled Rethinking the Property Rights of Spouses on Civil Marriage Breakdown in Nigeria. Inspiration from other countries prepared under my supervision. In his thesis, the promovendus analyzed Nigerian family law on the settlement of property on the breakdown of civil marriage. Noting that the law is not in tune with modern realities, his thesis adopted a comparative approach to determine the suitability of some legal precepts existing in Australia, England, and South Africa, and how they could be employed in the Nigerian context. The possibility of using trust and equitable principles to bypass a rigid system in Nigeria is advanced by the promovendus. The thesis contributes to knowledge by making a case for the preservation of the independence and equality of spouses with regard to their property rights in marriage, on the basis that marriage is a partnership of equals. Important recommendations are made, which include a proposal for a default matrimonial property system that emphasizes the equal property rights of spouses in civil marriages, with a possible exercise of judicial discretion in exceptional cases. Mr. Vice Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Laws with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate.
Mr. Vice Principal, I introduce to you Prince Imiera, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Doctor of Laws with a thesis titled Developing a Legal Framework for State Compensation of Crime Victims in Nigeria, prepared under my supervision. The study recommends the development of a system for state-funded compensation for crime victims in Nigeria, building on comparative best practices and international guidelines. The study makes a substantial contribution to knowledge by providing fresh insights into a state-funded compensation program in Nigeria founded on the principles of social contract and restorative justice. Mr. Vice Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree, Doctor of Laws, with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate.
Mr. Vice Principal, I introduce to you Alan Jackson, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Doctor of Laws with a thesis entitled Legal Concerns Arising from the Use of Cloud Technologies, prepared under my supervision. In his thesis, the promovendus examines the emerging legal concerns about the issues and challenges related to cloud technologies. A comparative view of the laws of South Africa alongside the legislation of the European Union and the United States of America was adopted. In his study, the promovendus highlights the differences in the law and elemental inconsistencies in the use of cloud technologies, in particular to personal data protection, data security, and data management risks. Noting that some of the related issues in legislation can be resolved through small incremental changes or amendments, others require more significant intervention. The study contributes to the legal debate, providing initial steps towards addressing the legal concerns of the use of cloud technologies and to drive the transformation of legislation for the new digital age and cloud technologies. Mr. Vice Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree, Doctor of Laws, with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate.
Mr. Vice Principal, I introduce to you Victor Lander, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Doctor of Laws with a thesis titled The Domestic Effect of the East African Community's Human Rights Practice, prepared under my supervision and with Professor Bobra as co-supervisor. The thesis adopted a constructivist and liberalist approach to understand how both hard law and soft law mechanisms developed by the East African community have been received into the respective national human rights frameworks. The study makes a substantial contribution to scholarships by providing new insights into how sub-regional human rights mechanisms permeates into the national legal frameworks and how these sub-regional systems can be further strengthened to advance the promotion and protection of human rights. Mr. Vice Principal, I request you to confer the degree to the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree, Doctor of Laws, with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate.
Mr. Vice Principal, sir, I introduce to you Chipasha Mlenga, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Doctor of Laws with a thesis titled Foreign Direct Investment in Zambian Mining Sector, the Need for Environmental Protection and Human Rights, prepared under my supervision. In his thesis, Foreign Direct Investment in the Zambian Mining Sector, the Need for Environmental Protection and Human Rights, the promovendus, using extensive desk work, examined the frameworks governing foreign direct investments and environmental protection in Zambia's mining sector, and their adequacy in ensuring protection of the environment and human rights from the adverse effects of mining activities. Candidate found that the frameworks are weak, timorous, and plainly unable to ensure mining in a clean environment sensitive to human rights. Besides bringing additionality to the discourse around the tension between development and human rights, thesis suggests a number of domestically tailored statutory and political interventions, including the need for Zambia to borrow from the evolving best practices in a number of SADC countries, which are aimed at striking a balance between mining, environment, and human rights. Mr. Vice Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Laws with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate.
Mr. Vice Principal, I introduce to you Emmanuel Okorut, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Doctor of Laws with a thesis titled Preventing Human Rights Violations by Law Enforcement During Counterterrorism Operations in Kenya and Uganda, prepared under my supervision. Both Kenya and Uganda are facing serious terrorism threats and have adopted counterterrorism legislation and reinforced law enforcement agencies to respond to these threats. The biggest challenge include lack of supervision and review, as well as weak accountability frameworks. The study makes a substantial contribution to scholarship through its analysis of legislation and practice through the lens of good governance and various theories of policing. Mr. Vice Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Laws with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate.
Mr. Vice Principal, I introduce to you Skuman Oosthuizen, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Doctor of Laws with a thesis titled The Normative Value System Underpinning the Companies Act 71 of 2008, with specific reference to the protection of creditors and employees, prepared under my supervision. In his thesis, the promovendus examined the underlying normative value system and the fundamental principles that underpin the Companies Act 71 of 2008. And more particularly the nature and purpose of the company. The research was approached from a historical, theoretical, comparative, and constitutional perspective. He deliberated how the underlying normative value system and the fundamental principles impact on the protection of creditors and employees. He concluded that the company developed through an evolutionary process and that our conceptualization of the company and its position in law is determined by our philosophical approach to justice, the resultant theory of law that we adopt, and the underlying economic, political, and social environment in which the company operates. The thesis is likely to have an important impact on policy formulation and the interpretation of the Companies Act. Mr. Vice Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Laws with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate.
Mr. Vice Principal, I introduce to you Shanae Smit, who has complied with the requirements for a degree Doctor of Laws with a thesis titled Die grondwetlike en transformatiewe hervorming van die regsprofessie ingevolge die Wet op Regspraktyk 28 van 2014, prepared under my supervision. In her thesis, the promovenda examined the changes to the legal profession in terms of a Legal Practice Act measured against a transformation imperative. She contends that the Statutory Legal Practice Council will result in a fusion of a legal profession and that this fusion will have an adverse effect on the independence of a profession. On a functional level, the capping of legal fees will also impact negatively on the sustainability of a legal practice. She contends that the slow progress made by the legal fraternity towards the transformation of a profession over past years necessitated the government to implement forced transformative measures, but that this forced transformation will have a profound impact on the independent nature of a legal profession. Her work delivers a substantial contribution to the academic discussion of the problematic clauses of the Act and the practical implementation of this forced transformation. Mr. Vice Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Laws with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate.
Mr. Vice Principal, I introduce to you Ngozi Ume, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Doctor of Laws with a thesis titled Realizing Access to Inclusive Education for the Hearing Impaired Learner in Nigerian Primary Schools, prepared under the supervision of Professor Charles Ngwena, who is unable to be here today. Ngozi Chuma Ume, in her thesis, provides important insights into the education of hearing impaired learners in Nigeria. The thesis explores the historical and current marginalization of hearing impaired learners in Nigeria. The promovenda, as part of this thesis, undertook a significant empirical study to assess learners, teachers, and policymakers' views towards inclusive education. This part of the thesis provides new knowledge on the issue facing hearing impaired learners in Nigeria. The promovenda utilized the social model of disability and new natural law perspectives as qualitative interpretive tools for appraising understanding of inclusivity in education for hearing impaired learners. The study adopted a prescriptive and directive approach as a directing element in the evaluation of the responsiveness of law and considered policy and practice towards securing inclusive equality in education for hearing impaired learners. The study further used a comparative analysis of Canada and South Africa in order to guide the future development and interpretation of Nigeria's non-discrimination provisions in the context of realizing inclusive equality in education for hearing impaired learners. Mr. Vice Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Laws with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate.
Mr. Vice Principal, the Supervisor will now introduce the candidate who complied with all the requirements for the degree Doctor of Philosophy.
Mr. Vice Principal, I introduce to you Bright Nkrumah, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Doctor of Philosophy with a thesis titled Mobilizing for the Realization of the Right to Food in South Africa, prepared under my supervision. Despite South Africa being known as the protest capital of the world, the use of protest to deal with chronic hunger has been rare and inconsequential. Based on comparative analysis from selected countries, the thesis found that protest may be an effective tool for protection against food poverty. The study makes a substantial contribution to knowledge through its analysis of factors underlying food protest. Mr. Vice Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate.
Mr. Vice Principal, the following candidate have complied with all the requirements for the degree Master of Laws by Research. Inutu Akolwa. Mr. Vice Principal, the following candidates have complied with all the requirements for the degree Master of Laws by coursework in International Trade and Investment Law in Africa. Eva Bigon. Olaronke Famoyiva. Sibusiso Gama. Wazel Gawet. Mwenda Hamanyate. Venashla Bangana. Tanya Kleisen. Temwa Kumwenda. Primrose Kurasha. Lisa Kwarteng Antwi. Gabriel Mading. Cara Maria. Mesvin McConnon. Karabo Motokua. Janita Nampewu. Larry Nagonde. Sarah Oloyewu. Ebonolua Tengbe with distinction. Samuel Tete. McQueen Zaza. LLM in Human Rights and Democratization in Africa, Sinai Ba. Stephen Boabeng Baidu, with distinction. And he also receives the Victor Dankwa Prize for the best student in the module Human Rights in Africa in the Masters in Human Rights and Democratization in Africa program. Lara Kutsia. Asrar Gebeyehu. Jacqueline Hakim. Estella Kabachwezi with distinction. Josephat Kilonsu with distinction. He also receives the Nelson Mandela Prize for the best student in the Masters in Human Rights and Democratization in Africa program as a whole. Kanya Mase. Rotondwa Mashige. Ulrika Mbuton with distinction. Fungai Mudau. Vera Mutone. Roslyn Nsenge. Richard Ntaki Rutimana. Nkabani Nyate. Henry Omboto with distinction. Irubafa Oyakirom with distinction. Clotilde Pauvert. Uriah Spoor. Ayodele Sogundro with distinction. Monica Tabengwa. Makunya Trezor with distinction. Tion Voldu. LLM in Multidisciplinary Human Rights, Euphemia Anor. Mr. Vice Principal, the following candidates have complied with all the requirements for the degree Master of Philosophy by coursework in Human Rights and Democratization in Africa. Winfred Appiah. Richard Lusimbo. He also receives the Ubuntu Prize for the student who best embodied the values and spirit of Ubuntu during the Masters in Human Rights and Democratization in Africa. Lindy Kai Matse. MPhil in Multidisciplinary Human Rights, Lusego Mangwanda.
Ladies and gentlemen, may we once again give our graduates a warm round of applause for their achievements. And to our graduates, the university is very proud of you, and the university wishes you well. If you continue with your studies at the university, and we wish you all the best and quick success. If you go beyond the university, also all of the best. And we, of course, know that you will keep the values of the university, give it them priority, and live out those values for us. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the end of the proceedings. Before we close, I wish to invite all present for a cup of tea or coffee in the Rautenbach Hall, situated directly underneath this auditorium. Once the procession, ladies and gentlemen, has left the auditorium, the audience is requested to remain in their seats for the second, more informal part of today's proceedings. Ladies and gentlemen, you are now requested to stand for the singing of the national anthem and to remain standing until the assembly has been dissolved and the academic procession has left the auditorium. The words of the national anthem are printed on the inside back cover of the program. Please rise. Ladies and gentlemen, by the powers vested in me, I hereby dissolve this Assembly of the University of Pretoria.
and Roslyn, can you please come on the stage? Ayo, Roslyn. And also Ebonolua. Can Ayo, Roslyn, and Ebonolua please come on the stage? Can I please have Ayo and Roslyn on the stage?
Is like a son I have might known. If God had granted me a son, this of life, one by one.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Begin the second part of the ceremony.
If Professor Gomez is somewhere in the audience, can she please join us? Professor Veronica Gomez. Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for staying behind for the second part of the graduation ceremony. We will start by the Dean of the Faculty of Law, Professor Andre Borain, who's going to announce the prize for the Best Dean's Essay, where the students of the Masters in Human Rights and Democratization in Africa usually tell us about their experience during the first and second semester. Professor Borain.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Just to explain to everyone, for the last 5 or 6 years, I think, Professor Viljoen, we have been running this Dean's Essay competition for this particular master's program, or the programs run by the Center for Human Rights. And what it basically entails, we invite the students on a voluntary basis to enter essays of 1,200 words and to explain to us what the LLM or the master's journey actually meant to them. So, and then at the conclusion and at the submission of these particular essays, we convene a committee of 3 people who read through all these essays, and they get marked and they get marked again, etc. And then in the end it's decided which one of these essays is the best, which one takes the second position, and which one takes the third position. So this year it was the same as the previous years, and I now call on the following 3 people to step onto the podium. First, Richard Ntakirutimana. Then Estella Kabachwezi. And then Makunya Trezor. Friends, I actually should have started by congratulating all our students who received, or our newly graduated students who received their degrees this afternoon, the doctoral candidates as well as the master candidates. So let's give them all a warm round of applause. At the same time, from my side, I also wish to congratulate all the lecturers and the supervisors. Let's give them also a warm round of applause. Well done to all. So yes, now back to the essay competition. So, and the third prize goes to Estella Kabachwezi. You can actually start. It's okay. Then who should I announce next? Second position or the winner? Well, you will know immediately which one falls in where if I read out the next name. Let's read out the winner. Richard Ntakirutimana. And then, of course, the second prize goes to Makunya Trezor. I wish you all the best for the festive season, and hopefully we will see you again in future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Brain, and congratulations to all the 3 of you. You guys should actually read the essays. They are really very interesting. Now, as you might know, the Masters in Human Rights and Democratization in Africa is actually part of a program run by the Global Campus of Human Rights. So in that vein, I'd like to invite Professor Veronica Gomez, the chairperson of the Global Campus of Human Rights, to say a few words.
A few months ago, I was in a meeting populated by people from around the world, but particularly from Europe. And we were going around a very, very big table. introducing ourselves. And we were introducing and naming our universities and the countries that we were coming from. And then came the turn of Norman Taku, which is the director of the Center for Human Rights here at the University of Pretoria, and he said, "My name is Norman Taku, and I represent the world." That's what he said. I represent the world. He didn't say, I come from the Human Rights Center in the University of Pretoria, I come from South Africa, or I was born in Cameroon. He didn't say any of that. He said, I represent the world. So this is my message to you. I'm just echoing Norman Taku, that unfortunately is not with us here today, at least not physically, but very much in spirit. Class 2017, you represent the world. You also represent Africa, and you've had this wonderful opportunity to study at this very prestigious university, but most of all, you have been surrounded during all these months by the staff at the Center for Human Rights at the University of Pretoria, and now you have these tools. Now you're equipped to face these challenges at the local level, at the regional level, and also at the global level. You're also now entering into this terrain of becoming members of the Global Campus Alumni Association. The more than 3,000 members of the Global Campus Alumni Association around the world. And through your own regional alumni association, you'll be connected to the GCA, the Global Association for Alumni. And we want you very much to become part of the global campus community, of this network of academics and professionals and experts and persons that work for human rights and democracy around the world. We know well that you're destined to do really good work, because we know that all the previous cohorts, all the previous groups, all the previous alumni of this program have moved on to fulfill very, very important roles at your local level, at the national level, at the global level too. So best of luck. You're wonderfully equipped for the task, and you know that you are very much part of a regional and a global community of which you expect you will continue participating. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Gomez. As you might also be aware, the Masters in Human Rights and Democratization in Africa is hosted by the Center for Human Rights, but it's presented jointly with 13 partner African universities. And each year we have a director who chairs the Council of Directors. And unfortunately this year, the outgoing chair of the Council of Directors, who's Professor Benjamin Zmu, could not come. But Dr. Maria Sim, who will be representing him, will say a few words on his behalf. Dr. Maria Sim.
Thank you. I would just like to begin by saying a very big congratulations to all of you. It's a big achievement, and we're happy that you made it to this day. The beautiful thing about a graduation ceremony is the fact that it has a dual role. So it represents the end of one thing and then the beginning of the other. So you never stop. Just like every living thing, if something stops moving or doing anything, then it has come to the end of its existence. But for you, you are ending this with this degree only to move on into the future. And on the side of the partner universities, the 13 of us, I can assure you, I can tell you that we are very happy and feel very proud to have been a part of your journey. Because one of the beautiful things about the program is you come highly motivated, and that makes the whole process of learning and teaching very interesting, because then we can have an engaging series of interactions. So whether as supervisors, as coordinators, or what have you, even as friends or just encouragers along the way, how is the writing going along, how is it doing? We are very, very happy to be a part of your journey, And I would like to formally welcome you also to the alumni, as one of them myself. It's one of the most unique things about the program. The kind of camaraderie we share, the kind of brotherhood. Indeed, it's like you begin to enjoy the meaning of Ubuntu after you graduate from the LLM program. Because you're so busy being in the torture chambers during the 1 year, then you now begin to live life after you graduate. So welcome to the fun side of it, even as you continue your work and your journey as human rights defenders, human rights protectors, and interested people in different capacities. So all the very best of luck from here, and once again, congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Asim. So we've heard from the global representatives, we've heard from the African representative, and maybe now it's time to come more home to our students. I'll call Ayo and Rosalind to say some few words on behalf of the master's class in Human Rights and Democratization in Africa.
Congratulations. Yeah, Mama Rose is here. Congratulations to all my colleagues. My name is Rosalind Insenge. First of all, we would want to thank the center for having given us an opportunity to be part of this life-changing program. And to our colleagues, the HRDA class, we can't be more proud than today. You have made it, and we have made it. Yes. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to be your leaders. We led well. You were happy. You did not fall sick. We took care of you. That is our informal speech. Let me invite Ayo to give the formal speech.
Thank you very much, Rosalind. Good afternoon, friends, family, alumni, faculty, and of course, the HRD class of 2017. I'm glad to see everybody looking fine, well, and congratulations to everybody that won something. Seems like half of the class won something. Sion, Trezor, Richard, the two Richards, almost everybody actually. Rosalind has graciously instructed me to carry on with a formal speech, so I'll do just that. In the mood of all of this celebration, it is easy to forget why we came here in the first place, and I wouldn't blame anyone for that. Look, by the time one has written almost 100,000 words in assignments and dissertations, reality really begins to take on a different meaning. Friends and family are the first casualties. Society then evaporates. And before you know, time loses meaning. You wake up sometimes not knowing whether it's a Monday, Saturday, Heaven's Day. By the end of the second semester, the meaning of life and the universe itself begins to depend on the dissertation word count. But that anxious part is over. Welcome back to the real world. We are now confronted with the very real challenges of our collective humanity. And much has changed since we were away. The way the world is now, sometimes I think we might just as well have sat before the TV and taken notes to earn our degree. For example, when we started, America was experimenting with a new kind of leadership. By the time we ended, Zimbabwe was experimenting with a new kind of leadership. You can call that the A to Z of human rights and democratization. More seriously, the knowledge, skills, and degrees we have earned or been awarded this year must have real-world application and value. We must give something back, whether as philosophical guidance to the future or as urgent interventions in the present. I know our personal issues are real, and I know these are just as important as the collective issues of humanity. Some of us are just starting on our careers, and we have no clear certainty on where we are going in the future. Some of us have to pick up from where we left off, and we wonder if we can still fit within the parameters of our previous lives. This is normal. This is fine. The individual is just as important as the community. Nevertheless, we apply to this course because we care enough about Africa and because we care enough about the direction of the human race. Caring is your conscious and active engagement with the realities of your society and government through the exertion of your physical, mental, and material resources. Attaining this degree is part of the process of caring. Fortunately, we are part of the collective effort of many people who cared before us and who will care even after we are gone. Those of us here today are the legacy of those who were here last year and we are the foundation of those who will be here next year. This process is vital. It is vital to the future of human dignity, to the future of human rights. True, the world may not suddenly change in our time, but every little effort counts. Each of the 27 degrees in human rights and democratization awarded today is one more step towards a more human world. Each one of us seated here today or represented here is playing a role in humanity's march towards equal progress and liberty. This degree is an awesome responsibility. It's a heavy privilege. What separates us from most of the people who would have liked to be here is often, in the final analysis, the arbitrariness of time and chance. We must never forget this. We must keep this in mind at all times in what we do. And when we exercise our certifications, we must know that it's a privilege we're exercising. I am confident we will succeed. I am confident we will attain our goals in all the ways by which we measure success. Why do I say so? Because we came here as individuals, but we are going back as a class. We are going back as members of a community, the HRD community, the CHR community, the global campus community. And this security of community will be our strength against doubts and uncertainties in our personal lives as well as in the future of human rights. When we are unsure, there is always someone that we have met this year to help us to regain our footing. Or, to put it in the wise words of Magnus, always remember to submit your assignments on Turnitin. Congratulations, HRD class.
Thank you, Ayo and Roslyn. It's always good to know what good of a job we are doing and hear no criticisms. Thank you very much. Now, we'll have a representative for the Trade and Investment Law in Africa, Ms. Ebenoluwa Tengbe, to say a few words on behalf of the class.
In order for the African continent to actualize its potentials as the new frontier, we cannot continue to sabotage our efforts in failing to strengthen and cooperate within our regional blocks. We cannot ignore the intrinsic interworkings of our respective states in our policies, our institutions, our governance structure, especially in light of our ultimate goal of a continental free trade. Wrong speech. We're not all heads of states or ambassadors or ministers of trade or heads of chambers of commerce. And I'm not addressing the African group at the ministerial conference of the WTO. Well, not yet at least. The head of faculty, the members of academic staff, all protocols observed. I am honored and humbled to speak on behalf of the LLM in International Trade and Investment Law in Africa class of 2017. Tila, congratulations. It's been quite the experience, I must say. You see, beyond the wealth of knowledge in a rather wide range of subjects, which I must admit, in the beginning seemed completely unrelated and rather confusing, the TILA experience has taught us to look beyond the apparent, to think outside the confines of conventionality, and above all, prefer solutions to the unique challenges that we face as Africans every single day. In that classroom, in the postgraduate center, in between 15-minute coffee breaks and snacks which we either generously shared or were otherwise forcefully commandeered, which we dubbed food aid, we were taught and trained to find African solutions to African problems. Oh yes, in that space we could not only agonize about the place of traditional knowledge in intellectual property rights, or the oppressive nature of high sovereign debt, or debates on the issues surrounding illicit financial flows, and those cows, yes, I mean actual cows, being subsidized at a daily rate higher than what most of Africans live on. Our eyes were open to the vast possibilities that exist in trade and commerce, given our continent's inherent comparative advantages. In TILA, we literally turned the map of the world around and pointed out that Africa was in the center of it all. Maybe I did start off with the right speech, because we have been trained to be the experts, the consultants, the policymakers, the public servants, and not just in diplomatic missions and conferences in exotic shopping destinations. No. We're called to particularly serve on that 9th floor government building with no elevator or electricity if there is an elevator, with no AC to cool you off after climbing all those stairs. TILA gave us the opportunity and the responsibility to make a difference. But before TILA basically handed us Africa, we were mosotized into miraculously stretching long days into even longer nights. We were completely reoriented to associate Friday evenings with receiving boxes of materials and suggested readings from our wonderful tutors. Thank you very much, Jacob and Tosin. And Sunday afternoons were met with dooming emails entitled Schedule for the Week, which our course coordinator tried to temper with weekly inspirational quotes. Dr. Femi, the anecdotes were quite lovely, but sleep would have been equally welcomed. Public holidays became equated to field trips, and yes, there was this one class on Sunday which Professor Borin himself took attendance. In TILA, we bumped into each other. We ate together. We had mixed reactions about the West African spicy food. We laughed and shared stories beginning with, in my country, South Sudan, or in Ghana. And we definitely dared not to refer to the Gambia without the THE in front, or the Kingdom of Swaziland without the deference to its monarchical governance structure. In the end, TILA has not just made us better, smarter, stronger, and more qualified bunch of lawyers, but TILA has made us illuminated, motivated, and proactive Africans. I stand here with great hope and the audacious belief that the class of 2017 will form that block of individuals to move our glorious continent beyond the image of poverty, disease, corruption, and the ultimate aid destination, but the cooking pot of commerce and the hub of great opportunities. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Ebenoluwa. I actually would wish to see so many of you starting a speech the way you started it, in a very formal setting at the UN or the AU level one day. Now is the time for the reason why we are all here. I know you would have all gone back if you did not have any prizes to win. So during the course of the first semester, both the TILA and the HRDA classes have been taking French by our very experienced French teacher, Damien, over there. And he has prepared some prizes for you guys. But those prizes were not based on marks. He really did not choose the person to give the prize to for the person who got the best mark overall, because some of you did have a knowledge of French before. So for him, he was like, it would be unfair if I gave that to that person. Let me think who made the most effort during the classes. So I'll call upon Damien to announce the prize winners for the French classes for the HRDA and the TILA class.
Thank you, Ashwani. Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Ça va? Nickel. Okay, so I'm not going to say too much. My belief about languages is this, is that they contribute towards the idea of global citizenship. And another thing that we also need to remember with French is that French is more widely spoken in Africa than what it is in Europe. So I hope that, the French lessons have actually contributed towards your development, and going forward that you're going to continue with this beautiful language called French. another thing, and just to finish off, is that learning languages is not going to change the world, but learning languages helps us, and it helps us to change. And in doing so, when we change, we help change the world. So without further ado, I would like to call out the recipients for this year's awards. From the HRDA class, it's Asrar Gebeyehu and Lara Kutsia. And that's not all, folks. The last person, well, from the TILA at least, is Sarah Ola Yeju. Merci à vous.
Damien. It did not happen if there are no pictures.
Oh, of course, yes.
There's another prize that Magnus promised the HRDA students. So we've been trying to get students to tell us more about the experience in the second semester, but usually it's in a very boring presentation form. So Magnus came up with this idea of the HRDA students presenting brochures to the Center for Human Rights. So he has a prize for the best brochure, right?
Okay, so we have all these amazing second semester universities, and you have all experienced them now, but it's sometimes a bit of a difficult sell in the first semester. Some places have done a bad reputation. When you end up there, you find them to be amazing. So I asked now so that we could see for next year's students, they can easily see that this is the best place to go, that you have a nice presentation, and that it will be an amazing place to go to. I've got many nice submissions, and I'm sure the next year's students will equally divide themselves and will not have a problem with our democratization exercise of selecting where to go, dividing it equally up between two for each destination. The brochure I found to be the most interesting and informative, and with a lot of illustrations and personal experience, was Team Venda. Unfortunately, Team Venda only have one representative here. Of course, everyone was very good, so there's also a shared second prize for everyone. I thought my prizes had disappeared during the first part of the ceremony because they had disappeared from the chair where they were, but fortunately they could be found. So, congratulations.
So now we'll come to the Trade and Investment Law in Africa program. Can I please invite Professor Bradlow and Dr. Femi to present the prizes and the awards?
So before we present the prizes, I just want to make 4 quick points. First one is I want to congratulate all the students in the TILA program for completing the program. Many of you don't know about the program, but every year we bring in lecturers from all over the world to come lecture in the program. They come from international organizations, international law firms from all over Africa, and people take leave from their normal jobs. Some of them pay their own way to come and teach in this program because I think it's so important and I enjoy it so much. And I wanted to tell this year's class that without exception, every single one of the lecturers came and told us how much they enjoyed teaching you and what a wonderful, inspiring group of people you are. So congratulations to you. Second thing I want to say is, I know from experience, and I think all of you know, that no one graduates due to their own efforts alone. Everyone has a team of family and friends back home or supporting them here. And so I want to take this opportunity to thank all of them and congratulate all of them for contributing to everybody's success as well. Third thing, and on a less happy note, is to pay tribute to Dr. Femi Oloyeju. Without him, I think all of you would agree, if Femi were not here, this program would never work as well as it does. But unfortunately, Femi will not be here in the future. He's finished his term as working with us and will be leaving. And so I want to take this opportunity to thank him, not just for this year, but for all his years of what he's done. And the final point is a message to the class. When we set up this program 20 years ago, or thereabouts, our goal was to produce a group of African lawyers who would be first-rate trade and investment lawyers. But the reason we placed it in the Center for Human Rights and not in the more logical place of a Department of Mercantile Law is we wanted to produce lawyers who would understand that trade and investment law was not just about getting rich, but it was about having a sense of responsibility and contributing to the development of Africa and of human beings all over the world. So I want to ask you and beseech you that as you go out and make the great successes as lawyers that I know you will be, that you remember to be responsible and to make sure you have a social contribution as well as doing well in the future. So, okay. I think it's not fair that I should announce the prizes. I think it's more right that maybe you should do it.
Thank you, Prof. We have 4 prizes for the best 4 students in the class, the TILA 2017. First, we have a Bolua Findatungi. She's jointly awarded the prize for the best academic performance in the module International Trade Law in the 2017 LLM, International Trade and Investment Law in Africa. Congrats. And she's the best student, overall best student in class. Let's give her another round of applause. Yes. Then I have Temwa Mpo Kuwenda. She's also jointly awarded the prize of the best academic performance in the module International Trade Law in the 2017 LLM Trade and Investment. Congratulations. Rosalind Stephen Kuluma, unfortunately, she's not here with us. She's awarded the prize for obtaining the highest mark in the mini dissertation 2017 LLM Chile. The next person who has won one of the prizes is Eva Akkot-Begun. She's awarded the prize for the best academic performance in the module International Investment and Business Law in the 2017 LLM TILA. Congratulations. Yes, this is the last one. Yeah. Then lastly, there's the prize awarded for the best student in French as the language of trade and investment negotiations in the 2017 LLM TILA, Sarah Oluyeju.
Thank you, Dr. Femi and Prof. Bradlow. Now we'll have the second before last item, but the most important one according to me on the program. IO will be presenting the Virtua Award for our alumni who've had the most impact in community during the year. IO will introduce the award and also will announce the award winners. Sorry, not IO, Bio.
I didn't get a round of applause. Is that discrimination? Don't worry. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Adibayo, and I'm privileged to be the alumni coordinator for the HRDA Alumni Association, amongst many other things that we do at the center. And I'm here to present the Virtua Award for an alumni that's been most outstanding in the course of their work after graduating from the program. And this is an award that could be very well received by even those who are graduating today, especially if you go out there and you create change on the continent and beyond. But prior to that, I'm just going to give a background to why this award is important. So the award is named after Virtua, and Virtua is a Malawian-born lawyer and civil rights activist. She fought for multi-party democratic rule in Malawi and was charged with treason, tried and sentenced to death by the authoritarian regime of Hastings Kamunzu Banda. She spent 12 years on the death row with her husband, Orton Chawa, a lawyer and once Malawian Minister of Justice and Attorney General. The Chawa's execution date was set for the 9th of June 1983, but international pressure saved their lives. While in detention, they were tortured, often kept in leg irons, received inadequate food, and were denied proper medical attention, which led to the death of Virtua's husband, Orton. Virtua was eventually released in 1993, and a new constitution was adopted, which allowed for multi-party democracy. Virtua established herself as a leading voice for human rights in Malawi and started an NGO. She became a member of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights in 1999 and served as the Commission's Special Rapporteur on prisons and conditions of detention in Africa. She eventually retired from the Commission in 2005, but remains a human rights champion in her home country, across the continent, and the globe. It is for this reason that the prize has been named after Virtua for her laudable contributions and sacrifice to the propagation of human rights in Africa. And for that reason, for us to also consider the recipients of this award, we generally would call for nominations from the alumni body. So the recipients are usually nominated by their peers. And after a review session by the selection committee, certain considerations such as the following are taken into note before selecting the recipients. First is the dedication to human rights activism. Secondly, leadership in the field of human rights and democratization affecting Africa and Africans. Thirdly, a contribution to a specific human rights course or courses. And fourthly, commitment to improving the lives of people everywhere in Africa. And it is my great pleasure to announce the recipients for this year's award as being Melanie Smuts from the class of 2012, as well as Musu Bakoto-Sawo from the class of 2014. Can we give them a round of applause, please? Both Melanie and Musu have created remarkable change in Africa, and I will quickly just highlight some of the contributions that they have made. Melanie Smuts is the founder of the Streetlight School, which was founded in 2013 first as an after-school program, but then opened its doors in January 2016 in Johannesburg, South Africa. Due to their novel approach, Streetlight Schools became the first school in Africa to be awarded a 4-star Green Star SA rating, and the project has been registered as well by the Green Building Council of South Africa. Streetlight School is an innovative, low-cost primary school model that focuses on inquiry, collaboration, exploration, relevance, and the use of technology to teach and learn. This unique approach empowers learners to master core skills and develop curiosity through collaborative learning, technology-enabled classes, project-based learning, and instruction. And there's a lot more that would be explained with regards to their impact, but that will come later in the form of a very short video. Moving on quickly to Musu Bakoto-Sawo. She's the National Coordinator for Think Young Women, which addresses the issues affecting young women by building their skills, strengthening their voices to create more impact and support to achieve women's rights in the Gambia. Think Young Women provides the space to empower and uplift young women, work with young men and boys to end violence against women and girls, and provide an enlightened leadership to meet the complex challenges of young women. Think Young Women was actually co-founded by another alumna of the program, Satang Nabani, from the class of 2012, and then handed over to Musu Bakoto-Sawo to continue the great work as the national coordinator. And it's remarkable because Musu Bakoto-Sawo herself was a child bride, and she overcame a lot of odds to be where she is today and has remained a very vibrant voice for the rights of women and girls in Africa, especially as it relates to harmful traditional practices, and has been at the forefront of ending female genital mutilation, particularly in the Gambia. And at this point, I'll just quickly I'll ask that a video be played highlighting the work that they have done in just a short while. This does not do exact justice to the immense work they have done, and I would encourage us all to go check out their work on their websites and follow what they're doing and support them as well, because we do truly believe that they have achieved greatness and impacted a lot of lives through what they have done and contributed on the African continent. Musu, unfortunately, is unable to join us today. However, Melanie is here. But in the meantime, can we just have the video played? This year, we are proud to announce the recipient of the prestigious Virtua Award. Melanie. This year, we are proud to announce the recipients of the prestigious Virtua Award, Melanie Smith, class of 2012, and Musu Bakoto-Sawo, class of 2014.
I wanted to start Streetlight Schools because I wanted to create an organization that demonstrated the best possible version of what education in South Africa can be, how it could be transformational, innovative, serve the purposes of justice and human rights and access to education.
Think Young Women is a young women-led organization in the Gambia that works on women and girls' rights issues. Our focus for the past years have been on sexual reproductive health rights, where we look at issues of female genital mutilation and child marriage.
Receiving the Virtua Award is honestly the greatest acknowledgement and accolade I've received for this work up to date. There's so many people that I would need to acknowledge for getting Streetlight to the point that it is today. But if I could dedicate this award to one person, it would be my LLM classmate, Ofense Mutlasedi, because when I started Streetlight, we had exactly 627 Rand in the bank, and I was desperate and almost ready to give up, and Ofense, out of her personal savings, donated 3,000 Rand to the organization and helped us continue at a point where it would have been impossible otherwise. And it's really thanks to her that we are here today.
I am thankful and humbled by this opportunity, and I believe that being a co-recipient of the Virtua Award is a sign that our work, that is that I'm doing, and also that of Think Young Women, has not gone unnoticed. This would only push us more to fight for and commit our lives to ensuring that women and girls in the Gambia and beyond live a meaningful and healthy life, one that is free from harmful traditional practices as well as other forms of gender-based violence.
Education is a deeply transformative tool, and I want to demonstrate that this organization can, in South Africa and hopefully one day across the continent, demonstrate that we can achieve learning and schooling in a way that empowers people to make those transformational gains in their society.
I am committed to ending this cycle of child marriage, female genital mutilation, and other abuses against women and girls, not only in my generation, but also in my community and also in my lifetime.
From the entire HRDA Alumni Association and the Center for Human Rights, we say congratulations. May this award propel you to do more for our continent and the world.
And at this point, I would just invite Professor Franz Villain to please present the Virtua Award to Melanie, who would also take it on behalf of Musu Bakoto Sawa, and after which Melanie will just give a few words.
Hello, class of 2017, and esteemed members of the Center for Human Rights and other honored guests. It's really such a pleasure to be here 5 years after my own graduation. I'm glad to see that the women on the program still wear shoes as impractical as they did in my day. So let's carry on that fine tradition. Thank you so much for this incredible honor. Truthfully, I'm quite stumped and really completely humbled to be receiving the Virtua Award. In particular, because normally at dinner parties I introduce myself as a failed human rights lawyer. So thank you very much to the center and my peers for honoring and recognizing that failure. I thought very long and very hard about what I could possibly say on this occasion, since yesterday afternoon when Adebayo told me that I should give a speech. And I've come to the conclusion that I really have no life wisdom to dispense at all, since I think most of us are basically winging it all the time. So instead, I just want to tell you a few brief stories about my work, and perhaps one small piece of advice I think I've learned about how to serve human rights. The first story is about the day that I knew I was never going to be a lawyer. I was in the second year of my LLB at the University of Cape Town, and that year I'd begun to volunteer at a school in Khayelitsha. And on Monday mornings, I would drive out to Conferral Senior Secondary School to give workshops. And one Monday, I was trying to get to the school, but I was turned away because the learners at the school were burning the desks at the school out of outrage because they hadn't had a science teacher for 10 months and their exams were coming up. So I had to turn around, and I went to a contract law lecture where for 45 minutes I learned what to do with a lease contract if you suddenly discover that there are cracked tiles in your rental home. I could not, and I still cannot fathom that I lived in a country where these two realities existed simultaneously. And it was the first time that I genuinely felt that human rights live on the streets. And I knew that I did not want to be a lawyer, but that I wanted to serve the cause of human rights. And I'm glad Adebayo showed that video because it contains the second story about my friend, Ofense, who donated her personal savings to the organization at a time when none of us had any money at all. And not only did that contribution increase our organizational bank balance 20-fold, but it gave me the faith to keep going at a moment where I so easily could have given up. And today, we have an award-winning school with some of the best results in the country and some of the most innovative academic approaches. We're regularly in the news. We have an operating budget in the millions and prestigious international donors and a staff complement of over 40. But it began with my friend who believed in the cause and believed in me. And the last story I'd like to tell you is about our school. So unlike many lawyers, I have the great privilege to see the outcomes of my work unfold directly in front of my eyes at the school every day. And sometimes this connection is so real that I feel it quite personally, like the twinge I get when our little girls play cricket with the boys, which I was never allowed to do at school. Or when I observed a teacher lead a 20-minute long conversation with a class on every question they had about rainbows. Or the fact that our grade 2 learners can write essays of a page or longer and do double-digit multiplication, which makes me feel like an idiot, because at that age, I could write a paragraph and maybe do single-digit multiplication. This week it was announced by a leading study that 78% of South African learners in grade 4 cannot read for meaning in any language. They're illiterate. And the statistics like this haunt me. When the problem is so staggering and so seemingly insurmountable, I come back to that feeling of being a failure. But each one of these children is an example of the future that we deserve, an arsenal of hope against the incompetence and irrelevance of the current state of education in the country. When these children grow up with the normal they've experienced in our school, a non-violent normal, an inclusive and a plural normal, a free and engaged normal, it unlocks them, and that is an unstoppable force. A person once educated cannot be worn down, fooled, or manipulated. They are free. And they are free to use that power to fight a world that doesn't reflect their values. And that is something that cannot be taken away from our children ever again. So as you prepare to go back to your lives after this wonderful graduation, I only have one small bit of advice. Real success in this field often feels like failure. The service of human rights is to fight for a better world that doesn't exist now. So do not expect this world to reward you for it. To really choose human rights is to choose the losing side. So in a world where so much is wrong, lead with the lessons that your heart already knows, and make the bad, strange, and courageous decisions that'll lead you to realizing those dreams. Those are actually the best decisions you'll ever make. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Melanie. I want to be proud of our alumni. Can I please call Prof. Avilwin to just give the closing speech and closing remarks? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ashwani. First of all, let me also add my voice to congratulate everyone that had graduated, but in the first place, congratulate the Virtua awardees. I would just want to say this is what it is all about, and we are all in awe and proud of what you have achieved and will achieve. Let me say congratulations to those who received a doctorate degree. You may have noticed there are 11. 7 of them were students from the Center for Human Rights, and one of them is an alumnus of the Human Rights and Democratization Program, and I'm happy to say 2 of them had done one of the other programs in the Center, the Masters in Multidisciplinary Human Rights. And in fact, today we had our first doctorate candidate that completed the D.Phil. We introduced an alternative doctorate program, not for lawyers, but for non-lawyers, and this Mr. Nkrumah, or Dr. Nkrumah, is the first, and we congratulate him in particular. I also have to note that one of our lecturers, Professor Magnus Kilander, oversaw, worked with 4 of those candidates. That is not a small or an unnoticeable feat. 4 doctoral candidates, and also Professor Hansungule, who had, I think, left us already, who had 2 candidates who completed their degrees. Congratulations to you all. As for the master's students, let me start by the small group of students in the Sexual and Reproductive Rights Masters. We have this master's program. 1 student graduated. It is an online program with time also here on the campus. The second group is the Multidisciplinary Human Rights Group. There's an LLM and an MPhil stream there. 2 students graduated this year. Thirdly, we have the Masters, the LLM in International Trade and Investment Law. Danny and Femi talked about it. 23 students graduated. We are very proud to have this stream, this group within the center. And if we sometimes fail to highlight the multiplicity of the center, forgive us, it is the Center for Human Rights. And we can blame history, because this graduation also evolved as a graduation towards 10 December, International Human Rights Day. But if we sometimes do not foreground the International Trade and Investment Program, do not for one moment think that we do not appreciate the importance and the wonderful qualifications that you have acquired here. Congratulations to you all sincerely. We also tried this year, let me say, to integrate the 2 programs better. In the past, the trade program actually ran in the second half of the year. This was an experiment. The trade program ran simultaneously with the human rights program. And I think we succeeded. We had the welcoming ceremony together. We tried. And if we faltered, we will certainly try to improve the synergy and the integration of the 2 programs in the future. The Human Rights and Democratization in Africa, 27 students, Masters in Law and in Masters of Philosophy, graduated today. Congratulations to you all. It's difficult to compare one group to another, but in this age of indicators, one of the indicators, I suppose, of the quality and excellence of a group that graduates would be the number of distinctions. And among this group, we had 8 distinctions, which is certainly the highest number. By that token, this must be the group with the most excellent outcome in terms of your graduating performance. So congratulations to the class of 2017. I think all of you did very well. It's a matter of a continuum where a cutoff mark has to indicate distinction or not. But to all of you who graduated, you've received many inspiring words. let me just give you this as food for thought. I think all of you had a prior degree, that's clear. You added a degree today. So obviously you think about it and you say you added knowledge and skills, competencies, insights. But I want to ask you to think, what have you added beyond that? I think you've added certainly opportunity. What this degree gives you is an enlarged scope of opportunities. Enlarged scope, I think, consequently, of responsibility. And you should think, wherever you are heading, what are the threats, which are the issues of your day, and find the opportunities that will open for you because you have this qualification. Look at them, try to seek your path, and look to find your voice. Whether it is in a context of new liberalism, globalization, threats to democracy, look at the opportunities, look at the responsibility that these opportunities may come with, and find your own path and your own voice. Let me then also just say a few words in thanks. Thanks to the partners who are here. We have graduation today, but we also have gone through a week of activities, as perhaps you've heard. The members of the board of the European Inter-University Center for Human Rights and Democratization, welcome again. Thank you for being with us here, and thanks for being with us for this week. The global campus partners, 7 partners across the globe that form and constitute the global campus. Inside the global campus, the African program exists, and inside the African program, we have a partnership with 13 partner institutions. And I always feel I have to mention them by name because they are really a core part of this master's program. The first I'll mention is the University of Alexandria in Egypt. If you like, they are a sleeping partner because no students went there because of political and other circumstances. But I would like to now mention the other partners, and I thought, just to break the monotony, I asked the students of the HRDA program who went to these destinations, maybe then to show their appreciation by applauding or otherwise, and we can see how it goes and how deep the appreciation lies. So first of all, I highlight the University of the Western Cape, one of our partners. 2 students went there. Okay. University of Venda. University of Lagos, Nigeria, Unilag. Makerere University. University of Mauritius. University of Nairobi. That's the idea. University of Ghana. Université Gaston Berger in Senegal. Universidade Eduardo Mondlane. Addis Ababa University. Thank you. Université d'Ambo-Mikalawi in Benin. And lastly, Université Catholique de l'Afrique Centrale in Yaoundé. Thank you so much. And thanks again to our partners with whom we are very gladly cooperating. In the program itself here with us, let me single out a few people. Damien, it was an experiment to have someone in the center become a French teacher. He's not only the French teacher, he's actually a project manager involved in projects. So I think it was an experiment that succeeded. So congratulations to you all. And please say together with me, La Charte africaine des droits de l'homme est... Okay, fine. So to the tutors, Chairman Michael, Henrietta, Kennedy, thank you very much for your contributions. You hear the students, that is for the HRDA program. The tutors often do much more than what is academically required of them, so appreciations for that. The academic coordinator, Magnus Kilander. Most of you know by now, but let me state again that he will, from next year, also hold the position of full professor. So I think that position is very well deserved. The students will testify to how well deserved that is. The program manager, Ashwani Budo, with her poise and professionalism, she has really made herself an indispensable part of our team. Not only, I think, in terms of the master's program, but also in terms of the activities this week and so much more. Thank you very much, Ashwani. The program coordinator, Johannes Boabeng Baidu. Johannes, thank you so much. He plays many roles, sometimes behind the scenes, but the greatest accomplishment for me this year was that our registration system has become electronic. The submissions is fully electronic through a software system, and Johannes has been in charge of that, among many other things. In his absence, the program director from our side, Norman Taku, I'm sure that he's in spirit here with us, and his inspirational soul, I think we all know, has inspired and has driven us in directions in respect of many activities. We think of him fondly today as well. The whole center team is behind all the programs that take place in the center, but let me also just acknowledge Adebayo Okiewo's role, not only today making this wonderful video, but in so many other ways, working with the students on a close basis as well. The whole center team, Carol, program manager, Yolanda Boyson, who has made the program that's always busy with media. I think it has gone spectacularly well as well this year. Again, this event for the HRDA was not only a one-day thing, it was a team effort for a whole week long. And for the week as a whole, I have to single out once again Ashwani. I have to single out gladly Tuto and those who worked with Tuto and Ashwani, among them Yusuf, Tokolo, and Damien again. So all the team of the HRDA, thank you very much. That's not the only teams we have to thank. We gladly also just thank the TILA team, Trade and Investment Law in Africa. Dr. Femi, personally, I am very saddened by the fact that you are leaving us. You came here as a postdoc, and that is a title that has, a hyphen and 2 words, but it has been so much more in respect of what you have accomplished, how you've worked with the students, your quiet professionalism, your dedication, determination, has inspired us all. Thank you for having been with us and having steered this program so well. Under the guidance of Danny Bradlow, Professor Bradlow, who holds the SACHI chair in IDLU, the International Development Law Unit, he and his whole team obviously work together. I single out the tutors who worked on this program this year, and Tandeka, who does the administrative work, and the team's efforts are certainly not unnoticed. So thank you very much again to IDLU and the team for this program management. And lastly, like I say, we are a big family with a number of programs, although the attention perhaps falls on the HRDA. Let me just mention the sexual reproductive rights as well. Professor Charles Ngwena, again Magnus Kilander and Tutu are the ones who are responsible for keeping that program together, and the multidisciplinary human rights program, Rutendo, our academic associate, and Professor Hansungule. Thank you to you all. You make this day and days like these possible. Thank you so much. Also, thank you to everyone who participated. Thanks to the audience, everyone who came to join us here today. Lastly, and that I think will bring us close to the drinks and refreshments, it's also my privilege to announce a number of opportunities for, in this case, the HRDA students in particular. These opportunities with a big O, I think, is based, an opportunity like this is based on the students making an application and on their performance and finding a synergy between the two. The first is that every year we have a student, or most of the years, going to the University of the Gambia after completing the degree, so they serve as some form of a professor, assistant professor, a lecturer, tutor. They have a manifold opportunities that they have. In fact, Johannes Boabeng Baidu was also in that position and became the acting dean of that law school at the University of the Gambia, and has come back to serve us here. But to 2018 then, the 2018 University of the Gambia scholar that will be supported by us will be Nyati Ngobani. Maybe just stand and people can see who you are. Kobane. Congratulations. We'll make arrangements with you soon. The second is the position at the African Committee on the Rights and Welfare of the Child. That position is in Addis Ababa, an internship, legal internship. That goes to Ms. Kabila Mbuton. Then at the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, as it happens also in the Gambia, in Banjul, it goes to Mr. Stephen Boabeng Baidu. The next is to the African Court on Human and People's Rights in Arusha, Tanzania, and it goes to Ms. Rotondwa Mashiga. And then lastly, one of the students have the misfortune, I don't know, of staying here, not seeing further parts of the world, but will be doing a doctorate and serving as a tutor for the upcoming group of 2018, and that will be Tresor Muhindo. So once again, congratulations. Thank you very much for joining us today. Ashwani.
I don't have anything much to add, except that I realized I had not congratulated any of you. So congratulations, everyone. And we can celebrate that with refreshment in the Rotenbach Hall downstairs. Yeah. Thank you very much.